the night my new neighbor asked me to hide something. I should have said no before everything went wrong. I thought I was just being a good neighbor. It was 11:14 at night. I remember because I checked my phone right when the knocking started. Too sharp, too fast for that hour. When I opened the door, she was standing there in the dark with a cardboard box in her arms and rain soaking through her jacket. Her name was Dana. She'd moved in next door exactly 9 days earlier, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Please, don't ask questions, just hold on to this for me. I should have said no, I know that now, but I didn't." And what happened over the next 3 weeks changed everything I thought I understood about the street I'd lived on for 6 years. YouTube suspense story script, the night my new neighbor asked me to hide something. The night my new neighbor asked me to hide something. I should have said no. First-person suspense, psychological thriller, realistic American setting. Before everything went wrong, I thought I was just being a good neighbor. It was 11:14 at night. I remember because I checked my phone right when the knocking started. Too sharp, too fast for that hour. When I opened the door, she was standing there in the dark with a cardboard box in her arms and rain soaking through her jacket. Her name was Dana. She'd moved in next door exactly 9 days earlier. And the first words out of her mouth were, "Please, don't ask questions, just hold on to this for me. I should have said no, I know that now, but I didn't." And what happened over the next 3 weeks changed everything I thought I understood about the street I'd lived on for 6 years. The kind of neighborhood where you wave but don't really know anyone. I live in a suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Mid-century ranch house, big oak tree in the front yard, the kind of street where people put out yard signs for local school levies and leave holiday cookies on porches. It sounds idyllic, I know. Mostly it is. But quiet neighborhoods have a way of hiding things in plain sight. The house next door had been empty for almost 4 months before Dana moved in. The previous owners, a retired couple named the Harmons, had left suddenly. I never found out why. One weekend their car was there, the next, it wasn't. A for rent sign went up within a week. I remember thinking it was strange, but I didn't push it. Like I said, you wave but you don't really know anyone. Dana arrived on a Tuesday morning in late October with a single moving truck and no help, no friends, no family. Just her, a few pieces of mismatched furniture, and more boxes than seemed reasonable for one person. I watched her from my kitchen window while I had coffee, and I felt something I couldn't quite name. Not suspicion, not yet. Just a low-grade unease, like a song playing in a register you can almost hear but can't quite make out. I introduced myself that afternoon. She was polite. Maybe too polite. The kind of polite that's practiced, where every word lands a little too softly. She told me she'd relocated from Pittsburgh for work, said she was a medical billing specialist, said she was glad to be somewhere quieter. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes, and when I asked if she needed help getting settled, she said, "I'm better on my own. But thank you." I told myself she was just private. A lot of people are private. I told myself that right up until the box showed up. She said it was just paperwork, old files from work. Over the next week, I saw Dana maybe 3 times. Once at the mailbox, once pulling out of the driveway before sunrise. Once standing in her backyard at dusk, completely still, staring toward the tree line, like she was waiting for something to step out of the dark. I waved. She didn't wave back. I'm not sure she saw me. On a Friday evening, I baked a pan of cornbread, something I do when I want an excuse to knock on someone's door, and I brought it over. She answered in about 30 seconds, which told me she'd been close to the entrance. She thanked me for the bread, but she didn't open the door more than 6 inches. Over her shoulder, in the dim hallway light, I caught a glimpse of the interior. Boxes, still stacked against the walls. Every window I could see had the blinds pulled down tight. She started checking in after that. Short visits. She'd stop by for mundane reasons, to borrow a phone charger, once to ask if I knew the trash pickup schedule. Each time she'd linger a few minutes too long, and I started noticing things. She never looked fully relaxed. She held her coffee mug with both hands like she was steadying herself. Whenever a car slowed down on the street outside, her gaze would flick to the window. 9 days in, she came to my door at 11 at night. The cardboard box was maybe 2 feet square, taped heavily on all sides. It wasn't heavy when I took it. I expected it to be. But it wasn't. She said it was old paperwork. Files from a previous job she needed to hang on to for legal reasons. She said she didn't have room for it yet. She said she'd get it back within a week. None of that explained why she was delivering it in the rain at 11 p.m. But I nodded and took it and set it in my coat closet and didn't open it. I want to be clear about that. I didn't open it. Not that night. That was my first mistake. My second mistake was believing her when she said a week. 2 weeks passed, Dana went quieter. I'd see her car in the driveway, but sometimes not for days at a time. I knocked once to check in. She opened the door looking like she hadn't slept. There were shadows under her eyes and her hair was unwashed, and she flinched when a car backfired somewhere down the block. I asked if she was okay. She said, "I'm fine. Is the box safe?" Not hello. Not thank you. Just, "Is the box safe?" I said yes. She nodded and closed the door. That night I lay awake for 2 hours thinking about what could possibly be in a box that someone needed to be safe. Then the car started parking on our street, dark blue sedan, different plates each time. I noticed it on a Wednesday. It was parked 2 houses down, just within line of sight of Dana's driveway. I only noticed because it was there when I got home from work at 6 p.m. and still there when I let the dog out at 10. Nobody got out. Nobody got in. The windows were tinted. Thursday, a different car. Same general position. Different make, different plates. Ohio plates Wednesday. Indiana plates Thursday. I told myself I was being paranoid. People park on streets, that's what streets are for. But I started keeping notes in my phone. Dates, times, plate numbers. Because something in my gut had shifted from unease to something I can only describe as a quiet, persistent dread. On a Saturday afternoon, I had a look at the box. I didn't open it, I want to be clear about that, but I picked it up and turned it over in my hands. Heavy tape, all sides, no label, no return address. And then I noticed something I'd missed before. In the bottom right corner of the box, in very small handwriting, there was a number, not a word, not a name, just 2 of 3. 2 of 3, which meant there was at least one more box somewhere, and I had to ask myself, if she trusted me with this one, who had the other? I knocked on her door that Sunday morning. She didn't answer. Her car was in the driveway. I knocked again Monday, nothing. I looked up her number. She'd given it to me in case there was a noise complaint about the house while she was settling in, and I called. It went straight to voicemail. The voicemail hadn't been set up. I went to work and tried to put it out of my mind. At 2:30 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, 7 words. "Don't open the box." She told you. I sat at my desk for a long moment reading that text over and over. Someone knew she'd given me the box. Someone knew where I worked, or at least that I'd be reachable at 2:30 on a Monday, and that someone wanted me scared enough to stay quiet. It worked. For about 4 hours it worked. Then I drove home, walked straight to the coat closet, and opened the box. Inside was not paperwork. Inside was evidence. Photographs, printed on regular copy paper, dozens of them. Surveillance-style images, blurry, taken from distance, some from what looked like a car window. They showed a man I didn't recognize. Outside a building I didn't recognize. Getting into and out of vehicles. Meeting with people whose faces had been circled in red marker. Underneath the photographs were printed documents, financial records, wire transfers, transactions going back almost 3 years, some of them running into 6 figures, multiple accounts, multiple states. Handwritten notes in the margins in Dana's handwriting, amounts, dates, what looked like code names. One name circled and underlined, R. Costello. Beneath it, an address in Westerville, Ohio. 15 minutes from where I was standing. There was also a folded letter at the very bottom of the box, not addressed to me, addressed to the FBI field office in Cincinnati. It hadn't been sent. It was a draft. In it, Dana described in careful methodical detail a financial fraud operation she'd discovered while working as a billing contractor for a regional healthcare network. She named 3 individuals. She described how patient billing data had been used as a front for moving money. She said she had been threatened. She said she feared for her life. She said she had compiled everything she could find and was coming forward because. And I remember this sentence exactly because I've read it so many times since. If something happens to me, I want someone to know why. I called 911 at 8:47 p.m., not because I'd figured out what to do. I called because my hands were shaking and I didn't know who else to call. The officers who came treated it like a welfare check. They went next door. No one answered. They noted the car in the driveway, ran the plates. The car was registered to a rental agency in Pittsburgh. They made some notes, told me they'd follow up and left. Dana's car was still in that driveway the next morning, and the morning after that, she never came back for it. I contacted the FBI field office in Columbus the following day. I brought them the box. They took it and gave me a case reference number and told me I'd be contacted. They were not unkind, but they were careful in a way that told me this wasn't unfamiliar territory for them. One of the agents, before she left, said, "You did the right thing by calling." She said it the way you say something when you're not sure if it's entirely true. That was 8 months ago. I still don't have a full answer. What I know, Dana was a real person. Her full name was Dana Michelle Pruitt. She had worked as a billing contractor in Pittsburgh. She had flagged internal discrepancies and apparently been ignored, then intimidated. She had moved, likely trying to put distance between herself and someone. She had compiled what I now understand was documentary evidence of a multi-state healthcare billing fraud scheme, worth somewhere north of $4 million over 3 years. What I don't know, where she is. The FBI confirmed an ongoing investigation when I called to follow up 4 months later. They couldn't tell me more. The name R. Costello appeared once in a local court filing I found online, a civil matter, unrelated, since resolved. The house next door has been relisted twice and gone empty twice. No one has stayed. I think about the 2 of 3 written on the box. I think about whoever has box 1. I think about whether there's a box 3 and where it ended up. I think about that text message which came from a number that no longer exists. I think about Dana most of all, whether she planned for this, whether she trusted me because she'd watched me for 9 days and decided I was the kind of person who wouldn't throw the box away and wouldn't ask too many questions until it mattered. Whether she's okay, whether she's somewhere quiet, watching someone else's street from a kitchen window, trying to decide who to trust next. I hope she is. I genuinely hope she is. But every few weeks around 11 p.m., I find myself sitting in my living room listening to the street outside. And I think, if someone knocked right now in the rain, with a box in their arms and fear in their eyes, would I take it again? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And that might be the most unsettling part of this whole thing. Not what was in the box, but what it says about me that I kept it anyway. Last week, a new car appeared on our street, dark blue. Sat there for 2 hours, then left. I checked the plates. They were from out of state. If any part of this story feels familiar to you, if you've ever had someone ask you to hold something, to stay quiet, to look the other way, I'd want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Maybe we're not as alone in this as we think.